Hello and welcome, dear viewers, to a brand new episode of your show, The Untold. My name is Daij Al-Hoteri and I'm here with my co-host, Fatma Al-Awadi. How are we doing today?
We're doing great, Daij. Today we have one of my favorite people who are we going to interview, Mr. Oraib Al-Fozan. She is a trainer and a coach for corporate training. I want to ask her a lot of things and I can't wait to start this interview with her.
Yep, so stay tuned and we will be back. Welcome back, dear viewers, and this is going to be lovely, interesting, and of course I met my guest. This is the second time, by the way, Fatma. We have Oraib here with us.
Yes.
So basically, we'll jump to the question straight away. So, can you tell us about your journey into the world of business and, what motivates you to, go on?
To be very honest, it's such a huge, huge thing that happened in my life. And honestly, I was in corporate for a few years right before I went into motherhood. And my experience that I had with corporate and then before that, different kinds of jobs, was quite a toxic experience, if you don't mind me sharing. And the idea that, a place can really affect your mental health while working there, how people perceive you, exactly, and it affects your self-worth. Because I remember when I quit the job, when I left it, I remember going home saying, I don't think I'm cut out for working. I think I'm that incompetent. Like this concept where they make you question your self-worth and they make you question your sanity. That's how toxic it was for me. And to be very honest, while I was going through motherhood, I kept thinking, what more is there? What else can I do with my life? What value can I bring into the world? And so I started studying these programs, the coaching programs and certifications through the ICF and getting myself certified, getting studies. And now I'm currently in the middle of my master's in psychology
MashaAllah.
as well. So it gave me such a huge push. And I want to bring that to the working culture in Kuwait as well as in the Middle East. I want to share that with people who are working in corporate, whether they're in government, not to let a place define you. And that's not the end of the world.
I agree, definitely.
Best of luck with that.
Yes, and best of luck with the master's degree.
Thank you.
And also, I love that when a trainer or a coach shares the struggle of how they started. This, to me, is what makes me go, okay, she understands. I need to go with her, It's not like you were having fun, relaxing, and then you decided you're going to become a coach. You want people not to fall into the same mistakes, let's say, not mistakes, or fortune that you've been through.
Absolutely.
With,
I think
with corporate and
100%. And I think a lot of coaches feel the same way when they choose that specialty. It comes from a place of hurt. And I think those are the ones that make the most successful careers out of it, is because they know that pain. And for me, in terms of toxic work cultures, toxic environments, failure to communicate effectively, which puts you back into that toxic cycle. And it really pushed me because it made me think, okay, I clearly need to learn how to communicate more effectively to make sure this doesn't happen to me again.
Okay, so how do you integrate language, communication skills, personal growth, all of that into your training programs?
So right now when I go in for corporate trainings, for example, I get to see different kinds of employees and mindsets really in different fields.
Yes.
So where I'm looking in the banking sector, the oil sector, private companies, all of this. And you really take a look at their work culture. And I noticed that a lot of them, they thrive on the concept of, this is the organization that you serve. You need to just blend in, be passive, get told what you're supposed to do and keep going, right? But what we try to incorporate into our training programs to help them get to the next level is teaching them to think for themselves in a sense where, hey, self-awareness is more important. Your self-worth is very critical to your career and to your future. If you're working in an environment that's no longer serving you, and you don't know how to fix it, you've tried communicating, it's not working, it's okay to switch. There's this constant fear, you know, like I need to stay where I am no matter what, whether it's hurting me or not. And so part of what I teach as well is how can you use the language to effectively deliver your message? Because it's one thing when you're talking to your employees or with your managers and you're trying to express something that bothers you. I can walk in and tell my manager, hey, this bothers me, you're annoying me. It's not going to get me good results.
No. I mean, I wish it were that.
I wish it was that easy
It's
to
not
be
that
just
easy.
direct and to the point and you get your result. But if anything, it's going to offend.
Yes.
But if I were to sit with my manager and say, hey, I feel I've been doing my best with X, Y, and Z, but could you perhaps guide me in terms of what I'm lacking? Could you let me know what I'm missing? Or is there something else I can improve upon so I can get a better result? It shifts the conversation.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
It does.
So, regarding the elements that you focus on during the workshops for the speaking workshops that you do, what is the main element or the thing that you focus on during these workshops?
So my main field of specialty, where I say this kind of affects everything else, is your communication skill. The ability to relay your message. So this is something I focus on a lot of in my workshops, and I tie it together with public speaking, presentation skills, as well as conflict management. Now, the reason why I always focus on communication skills is it's not just words, right? We always say, now, okay, as long as you choose the correct words, you're fine. But what about your body language?
Oh, wow.
What's that saying? What about your facial expressions? What about your voice tone? How is it in terms of when you're speaking in a meeting? So, example, we had multiple different clients. They would come into the meeting, they would express their ideas, but their voice was shaky, their
Okay.
hands were shaking, and then they just, their volume just sort of kind of just disappears
It
into
fades
mute.
away. Yes.
It
Yeah.
fades away, and then they kind of just back off and they're quiet. Now, this sends a message. I'm not confident. I don't feel I belong here.
Oh.
So this
Oh.
person might be intelligent. They create a lot of different ideas. They're creative, but they're not getting the recognition they deserve because simply they're more timid or they have a fear of public speaking.
It's kind of like they ruined their own chance without them knowing, or it's not intentional,
Yes.
just because of the communication skills.
Oh, absolutely. And it's hilarious because every time I give presentation and public speaking courses in the corporate industry, some of the participants will always look at me and be like, "We know how to speak. Why are you here?"
Right?
Yes.
Not a-
It's the attitude of, why are you teaching us something that's conceptual or something that's so typical? We learned this in university. Now, time to get them out on the stage. Come and speak.
Practical.
Not everyone
Not
can speak
able.
in front of a camera, in front of the people, audience,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
on
So-
a stage.
And now when you start to demonstrate to them, hey, I know you know how to speak, but do you want to get to the next level? Do you want this concept of development, improvement? Because learning never stops. So this is the thing I really try to drive home with them is no matter how much of an expert you think you are,
There's always
that-
room for
there-
improvement.
Absolutely, 100%.
Wow. Look, she said, I know you can speak. Do you want to get to the next level?
A nice little
Anyone.
way of
Yes.
telling someone that
I
you
would
can
always
become
say
better.
yes. Yeah, I would never get offended. It's like you're trying to tell me, hey, you need to work on your speaking skills, but you said it in a very good and motivating way. That's beautiful. So let's talk more about the role of business ethics. What does it play in the corporate world, and how do you address it in your sessions?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I remember delivering this particular course. And honestly, ethics drives the entire organization, right? And having your employees and management aligned in terms of what ethics is, how to practice it, how to bring it to life, matters. Simply because, okay, it's not just a rule book. Yeah, you read your code of ethics, you know that it's there, but you're not practicing it. So teaching them to dive in further into it and ask the right questions.
Okay.
Be like, okay, what's ethical to you? I made it simple. What do you consider ethical in the business world right now?
Okay.
What's acceptable? What is transparency to you? Making them ask questions where they need to learn how to be more forthcoming,
Okay.
and learn about, for example, the honesty, the things that come in between that. Like, this is very important. And a lot of people, when they take this course, they don't realize the depths in which you need to go in.
Does it work in Kuwait? Because we have some ethics in Kuwait and some traditions, even at work, and maybe this does not apply to, for example, France. Like, do you teach, the ethics for business according to where we live?
Yes.
And
That's a
is
good-
that even
good
a good
question. That's a
question
good
to ask? I don't know.
It's actually a very good question, simply because we had a laugh about this concept. I said, now, we talked about ethics, we all agree on it. Well, let's say your cousin comes for a job. Will you give them a job? Some of them were like, yes, immediately. And some of them were like, I'm not sure. Yes or no, yes or no. So, our culture in Kuwait especially, it's so ingrained in a way where we serve each other as a community. We're trying to be there for one another. But the problem is when nepotism crosses the line with ethics,
I agree.
it creates problems, regardless of the situation.
I agree.
Now, on a great scale, if you're hiring someone who's your cousin or a friend or whatever, and their work ethic is great, they're going to be a great contribution, that's the best case scenario.
Yeah, sure.
But what if it's the
Yeah.
opposite?
Yes, which really happens.
Which
and we've
majority of the case
Yes.
is the situation.
Majority, yes.
So
That's
then
true.
what do you do with that?
seen- Okay.
So this is where I asked them, it's not about making things black and white. You don't have to make things black and white. But there are ways that you can handle this situation. So
Right.
for example, you want your cousin to be hired. What do you do to make it ethical?
So I make sure that this set cousin has the criteria that we are looking for and the credentials maybe
Precisely. And
Yes.
then hand their CV to the person in question to review.
to review.
This way you take yourself out of the equation, but you grant the opportunity. There's a way that you can handle this situation without stepping over the concept of the business ethics in question.
Interesting. And it's amazing that in Kuwait and our culture, the more you help, the more stars they put on your, shoulder or your hand, like a good noodle. Like when we were kids and the teacher goes like, "Oh, Fatima did great. Oraib did,"
Yes.
And the more you help and the more it's like a race of who helps more.
Yes.
And if you I don't know about if you've heard of this, but a lot of people say he's a good man. Someone will marry this good man. He helps a lot of people. It's all about helping one another, as
Yeah.
you've said. Yeah.
Helping, kindness, like unlimited
Offering.
kindness,
Yes.
like this concept of this person always offers, this person's always generous.
Builds up a
Yeah.
reputation
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
like a kind person.
Yeah.
That helps, and yeah, everybody loves that, guys. Well, anyway, so now let's talk about if you could share with us some insights into how you foster teamwork and cultivate a positive organizational culture in the workshops that you do.
So when it comes to business, right, at the end of the day, your employees are the backbone of the company. You can say it's leadership and management, but they can't be there without their employees. So it's always going to be reliant on teamwork. So the first thing I usually address in these workshops and trainings when it comes to teamwork and collaboration is the concept of, hey, you all need to rely on each other. For that to happen, you need to cultivate trust.
Okay.
For trust to happen, you need to cultivate good communication skills. The consideration of transparency. How can you guys be transparent together as a team without being too personal? So, there's this concept in teams sometimes where I need to share my personal information so that I can get close with my team, be friends with them. That way we can work better. I think we can all safely say this kind of backfires sometimes,
It does.
right? When we
It
try
does.
to blur the line between professional and friends.
Right.
So teaching them instead, how do you communicate effectively with one another as a team without blurring the lines, maintaining your personal integrity, but you enjoy working with that person?
Yes. So as we say, I always refer to my work friends as my work friends, colleagues.
Exactly.
There's also this other word that I would say, an acquaintance.
Yes, absolutely.
And someone I know from work. It doesn't mean I don't like them. I'm not going to hang out with them. But the personal friends who know about my family, my marriage
Everyone
or
has
something
his
like
own
they're
space.
yes, they're not the same. And I like that it's private. I like that it's because it doesn't make me think, what does this guy know? What does this girl know? So it's very important that we have this
Yeah.
A
personal
very good
life.
point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, boundaries is important.
It
Without
is.
boundaries, it's difficult.
Yes.
All right.
Um,
So let's take a quick break,
Yeah.
and then we can get back to continue this lovely interview.
Okay, so we're back with Oraib Al-Fozan, and Oraib, we were just talking about the sessions that you hold. Let's talk about writing. When it comes to writing skills in business context, what are some of the most important principles that you emphasize? Me saying this as an instructor, also as a writer, same as you, but I want to learn from the best.
Oh, my dear, thank you so much. Sincerely, it's been a challenge when it comes to this course, especially in Kuwait, especially if it's in English.
Okay.
So, English business writing skills, people think that the fancier the vocabulary, the more effective my communication and the better I come off. But what I try to teach throughout these courses is the simplicity of the language. You want to make sure that your message can be understood and read across all nationalities, all levels of people, and all types of communicators.
So you're saying you have to keep it simple?
Keep things simple, absolutely. So, the concept, like, for example, they like to throw big words around in meetings or in Teams or in an email.
So that
but
they can sound scary.
they can sound intimidating, they can sound confident, and they can show their professionalism. But then you find out they're using the word in the wrong context.
It's true. It happened. It
It
happened.
happens.
Yeah.
And then that becomes more of a confusion. So now the employee reading the email needs to ask, what did you mean when you said this? Now this becomes a breakdown in communication. Wow. So I had to demonstrate to the trainees and the participants. I said, if you send an email this way, and I included complicated language and everything, and it was very long and overdone.
Vague, yeah.
As opposed to a very simple 3-sentence email, covered everything, everyone understood it. I said, which one would you prefer? They all said the shorter one. But then they'll ask me, they're like, okay, but which one's more professional? I'm like, that one.
Yes,
The
the one I
simple one.
understood. Yes, exactly. Wow, that's a very good point. I believe you have a video or a reel on your social media, your Instagram, that talks about this point.
Yes.
Simple communication, I think it was. Yeah. And I have to say, this part, we have to teach a lot of people about
Yes.
this part. If you don't mind me sharing this story, there was this lady who wanted to learn how to write for as professional English, and when I asked her to write an email, she wrote per as our last email, and I was like, so Flana, or Miss, what do you mean per as? And she said, our manager always writes it, and this is how you should write it because this is how the Americans write it, or the British, or the corporate. And I asked her, what is per? P-E-R. And she said, this is the way you start an email. And I was like, it's as per. And then I started asking her about the Latin words, and she was blown away. She
Correct,
said,
yeah.
why is it so difficult? I'm like, no one asked you guys to do it this.
yeah,
Yes,
this way.
Exactly.
it should be simple.
It should be very simple. And this concept, like as per my last email, honestly, even me, when I coach this, I tell them, please avoid this. Because honestly, it's becoming used in a negative connotation at this point, like as per my last email. We've all seen the memes. It means, did you not get my previous email?
Exactly, yeah. I hope this email finds you well. It didn't.
It did not. Exactly. And then we have the abbreviations.
Yes.
FYA,
Yeah.
FYI. And I remember when I was teaching a group of executives, I said, stop sending your team FYA with nothing else. Not even a hello, not even a salutation, not even a thank you. FYA, for your action. It sounds very condescending if you think about it. I said, think about it in terms of there's still another person at the end of the computer receiving this, reading this. Person with feelings, a person who still needs to connect with you. Why would you disengage in that manner? right? So keeping things simple is one thing. Another thing is choice of words.
Yes.
I focus a lot on that. And then a third thing is the format. So business writing, it goes into multiple things. It's not just emails. You have proposals, you have your reports, and this is critical for everyday business affairs. A lot of companies nowadays, they give you the template, so you're good.
Yes.
But if you need to learn it from scratch, you need to make sure it's very clear.
Yes.
So for example, in a business report, you have the I would say the summary for the executive summary.
Or
It
the
is-
notes for the meeting, maybe. Yeah.
Absolutely, but it's called executive summary because it's notes for the executive,
Yes.
right? So you're supposed to now summarize your entire report in this small paragraph where the executive now knows how to make a decision just based on your summary. That's a challenge.
Wow. That's depth.
Yep.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you actually teach people how to differentiate
Yes.
the trainers. I mean, how to differentiate between, okay, not every business writing is the same.
No.
And not everything has to be, over exaggerated with
Exactly.
the, condensed words and all of those. Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%.
Wow.
Now, regarding your field, now stress and time management is a huge challenge, right? So how can professionals deal with this?
Depends on the industry and depends on the individual. So I've gone into different types of corporates where I bring in this course and I get different responses from each. The worst one I got was one of the telecommunications area simply because their schedule was so impossible. It was difficult for them to fathom the concept of work-life balance. And this is something we teach in stress and time management, achieving work-life balance. But something I like to stress on is the fact that work-life balance does not mean 50-50. So we have this concept, if you want to achieve work-life balance, it should be 50% work, 50% life. That's not true.
Wow.
It's some days 80-20, some days 50-50, some days 20-80, the opposite way.
Right.
But as long as there's a balance somewhere during the week where you still have a chance to unwind, take care of yourself, take care of your family, you're in the right track. So don't beat yourself up if some days look tougher than others.
I don't think when you're in the delivery room, there's a 50-50 ratio for work and life. I think it's life 100%.
Exactly.
When
Okay.
you're delivering the baby or when you're getting married or when seriously, that's what you mean.
So now, as
there's
women,
priority.
there we go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now let's get specifically into the women, the part who working mothers. Let's say, I'm one of them, and I can safely say I used to have this notion, this toxic notion that I'm doing something wrong.
Oh.
I'm not doing 50% work and 50% life. No, I'm doing too much life and not enough work.
Wow.
And I used to feel that that was a failure. Now, this concept is very toxic for a lot of women and a lot of people in our society because, let's be fair, our kids need us too,
It's true.
right? They are at a critical age. So now, how do I balance it? Some days I give my all to work, fine. Some days, no. Some days
All
it's my
to life.
kids. So it's how you prioritize.
Yes. And what about, can you please share with us some techniques on for personal development when it comes to particularly being effective in your training sessions?
To be effective as a trainer, to be effective as a communicator, honestly, it
The
starts
techniques,
with
yeah.
you.
Okay.
Starts with you in terms of your self-awareness. So I cannot be effective in the training room if I don't understand myself. And by understanding myself, I'm talking about the triggers I may have. Because sometimes you're going to be faced with some participants who are difficult.
Yeah, of course.
They're going to challenge you, they're going to trigger you, and you're going to have to maintain professionalism throughout it all. So if I understand myself, I understand my triggers, my limits, and my capabilities, I know how to navigate. So you kind of learn how to be more effective this way. So from self-awareness, now you get into the next part, which is action taking, changing habits, changing minor things, thinking in terms of reflections. I did this training today. What went right? What went wrong?
Okay.
Being able to face that. I think the biggest thing for everyone, honestly, in terms of personal development and being more successful in it, is the ability to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I kind of made a mistake today. I need to fix it, doing 1, 2, 3.
Personal growth.
personal growth, but it takes guts to look yourself in the mirror and say, I made a mistake, and literally look at yourself and
And
admit
say
it.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so-
Wow. Before you ask a question, can I also ask another one?
Yeah, go ahead.
I hope our dear producer Aziz doesn't get upset because this one is from me. I love your name. I know a lot of people love your name too, Oraib. Can you please tell us the story behind this name? Who chose it? What does it mean? You know,
Interesting story. My grandfather actually chose this name.
is it because his name is also similar?
My father's name is similar. So my father's name, God rest his soul, is Yarub.
Okay, God rest his
So
soul.
Oraib Yarub.
Oraib
And
Yarub.
then
That's beautiful.
my grandfather's name is Qahtan.
Oh wow, that's like an Arabic name. That's an authentic Arabic name.
Very unique.
So he went through the history book. You know the first Arab family?
Okay,
Qahtan had a son called Yarub, who had a daughter named Oraib.
that's amazing.
And that is exactly what happened.
Wow. So Oraib comes from Arabic.
Yeah, so I think like small Arab, little Arab, or something like that.
Okay.
And then someone once told me it means the giver, but I have yet to find something to back that up.
Okay.
But it's yeah.
So it's like
Well, that's
Arab Oraib, like Kuwait.
Yeah,
Yeah.
When it
something
became
exactly,
yeah, yeah. Oh,
precisely.
that's amazing. Thank you very
That's
much
very
for
nice.
answering this.
No.
I was waiting for a chance to ask her because Oraib and I, for those who don't know, we share a program together. We are co-hosts in another program, Hala Kuwait. And it's a pleasure hosting with you. And every time I want to ask you about the question about the name. And I'm like, is it too personal? It's like I'm interviewing her.
Nah.
Yeah. And when I found out that you were going to be our guest, I was like, I'm asking this question, whether it is on or not.
You know what? I'm gonna take the chance right now and also ask you, as a team, we here in the as a crew, what can we do to improve the productivity of our work? Since you can.
Well, it really depends on how you see it, right? At first, so I, for example, I cannot tell you what it is because I would need to know the details. But you, as a team, you would know the details of your own work. You would know the productivity levels. You would know what's a miss and what's working. So the first step would be to have that team gathering to discuss this with each other with openness. Like where you're willing to hear everyone out. But with that said, if someone is willing to hear something out, that doesn't mean you dish it out in such a harsh manner. There's an etiquette towards and how we give our feedback, right?
Right.
So
Like the manager example.
exactly.
before.
So being a sounding board where it's like, hey, what do you think about us trying this approach? Or, hey, I noticed this is working, but sometimes this can be a little tricky. This can be a little bit of challenge. So what can we do to improve this together? You make it a we thing. You don't say, you sometimes do this. Or, Tara, you always interrupt me, or you
blame
did.
me.
So this concept of you and I, remove it from the equation.
Okay.
All right.
We
Well,
make it a we.
thank you for this. Well,
Wow.
we're gonna have to apply this.
It's true. Let's have a meeting after.
Yeah, we'll have a meeting after this. Well, with that said, I think we have reached the end of this interview. So thank you so much for being part of this, and of course, thank you, Fatma.
Thank you.
as well.
Actually, yes. I'm very sad that we're concluding
About-
this
yes,
interview.
about
It was amazing, and I was getting to the juicy parts, and unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. Thank you very much, Oraib.
No, it's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and I really hope you've benefited.
Thank you. So don't go anywhere, dear viewers. We'll be right back.
With that said, dear viewers, we have reached the end of this lovely episode. That was nice. What do you think?
It was amazing. I didn't want the interview to finish. Seeing her talk and being passionate about her field, I wanted to ask her more questions.
Yeah, we learned a lot of things
we did
during this
learn
interview.
a lot. Yes.
Yeah, but sadly, this is the end. So we hope to see you again in the next one.